welcome to another episode of the UXR Minds podcast. And I've got a very interesting guest on today, Julian Della Mattia. If you're active on LinkedIn, maybe you've come across him, especially in the research field. He's got a lot of experience as a UX researcher, but probably more recently in the research ops field. He loves talking about it. He loves helping UX researchers, especially lone UX researchers or researchers that aren't working with a big team, to help set up their research operations through recruitment, all the way through to presenting results from research. So it's a really interesting conversation that I had today with him. So looking forward to sharing this. So sit back, enjoy, and let's get into this episode. Before we do get into today's episode, I just want to turn your attention to something that has helped me a lot. Now, there are many tools out there. Obviously, we want to focus on leveling up our research skills and how we use different methodologies in research, but tools do help us to maybe be more organized. And something that has helped me a lot is Notion. Now, I'm writing a blog about how Notion has helped me organize my research better, how it's even helped me create a portfolio, how it has even helped me to share my research through a team. So I just wanted to give a heads up to that. I'll be sharing a link below the sharing of this episode on social media, so be sure to check that out. It is an affiliate link, so if you guys do sign up, it will help support the running of this podcast. So I just wanted to give you guys a heads up about that, and I'll also be sharing the blog link very soon with you guys. So keep your eyes peeled, and let's get into today's episode. Okay, so I'd like to welcome Julian onto the podcast today. It's really nice to get him on. I've been following Julian for a while on LinkedIn, and the resources and things he shares have always been beneficial for me. So I'm really happy to get you finally on here. So do you want to maybe just give a bit of an introduction into who you are, maybe kind of your background, where you're from, and kind of how you've got to where you are now?
Okay, first of all, thanks for having me. We've been chatting for some months now, and it's great to be in the podcast. So, Julian, I am a researcher specialized in research ops. So I'm that kind of person that likes building teams and practices from scratch, and I decided to specialize on that. I've been working as a researcher for around 7 years, and I actually started off as a product manager. And then I moved to research, and the reason I decided to specialize in this is because I started research being the first research at a company. Then the following one, I was the second hire. Then another one, I was the first again. So my career is kind of like marked with those experiences. Maybe just in my last experience at Q.com, the team was already built. But normally I joined quite early in the game. So at some point I noticed, okay, once might be chance, twice, okay, maybe, but 3 times if I pick those kind of gigs, I mean, there's something to it. Yeah. So yeah, I thought, okay, we need to maybe face this and actually, take it as a part of my profile and because I actually ended up picking up the skills and the knowledge for building teams and practices. At the beginning, playing it by ear, and then learning, and then polishing, and so this is how I decided to go this way. I'm based in Barcelona, in Spain. Okay. But I've been living in different countries, in Germany, Italy, Argentina. I'm originally from Argentina.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because I saw the Italian names. I wasn't sure if it was Italian, or I know there's a lot of Italians in Argentina.
Yeah, my dad was Italian, so I'm actually half Italian. I lived in Italy as a kid too. So.
Cool. Which part of Italy, out of curiosity?
Near Venice. It's a city called Treviso. It's near Venice.
Okay.
1 hour away.
Another one. I'm in Turin, so the other side of Italy. But yeah, I know it. That's cool. That's cool. You mentioned before that you're in product design before, product management before moving into research.
Product management, yeah.
Product management. Okay, so what made you transition over? Was it like just a particular interest in research, or when you were obviously working in product management, did you notice that research would be something more up your street based on personality or something, or was it something else?
I would say a mix of all those things. And in my experience, what was happening when I was a product manager is that I actually was pretty keen on the talking to customer part. I mean, now we have this thing, okay, who should be talking to customers, all these discussions in the research and the product world. But, back then I was pretty inspired by Steve Blank, Mary Kagan, and all these authors, and this part of getting out of the building and do this customer development or customer discovery, and the things was, okay, I want to go out and test my ideas and also find out what they actually need. So at that point, I'm using test my ideas on purpose. I know as a researcher, this shouldn't be the proper terms, but anyway, the concept's still the same.
Yeah.
So at some point, I noticed that during my day, I actually kind of shifted my workload towards this part of the job. I was not really happy in Jira, you know what I mean? I was not really happy with
another one
with planning and sprints and all these things, and I really enjoyed this part. So at some point I said, okay, I need to become better at this. How can I become better at talking to customers? How do I become better at interviewing? How do I actually craft, surveys or try different methods to actually learn what I wanted to learn? So at some point, one thing led to the other. So I was like, okay, there's a thing called UX research or research. So how about we go this way? So then I got a really messy role in an agency. So more than an agency, a designers collective, so a group of designers and researchers that were doing work together. So kind of like a collective of freelancers, so to say. And there, it was a mix of design sprints that I actually knew how to do. Also a skill that I picked up while as a product manager. And I tried to squeeze in some research. Okay. So at the beginning, I only did research around the design sprint, and then I tried to also combine larger research projects and then a sprint. So everything would revolve around the sprint anyway.
Okay.
So I'm from there fully to research, and I started to do less sprints and more research, and then gradually.
Okay. So it's more like a gradual process, kind of as you kind of learned the research trade, you kind of moved over. That's cool. It's also nice to get the perspective of a transition also within already being in the field or already having a job related to research, because from my experience, and I know many others, the transition over comes from outside, from maybe a totally unrelated field. So it's also nice to get that perspective when, a product designer or even a UX designer wants to make that transition over. Did you find it difficult? Did you meet kind of any, let's say, I don't know, resistance maybe on your part, maybe things that you found difficult to learn or to implement, or did you find it quite maybe a smooth transition over without any real challenges?
Well, I think there's never like a clean cut, and especially if you work in something like this. I mean, it's not that that I was a doctor or a lawyer or maybe doing something completely unrelated.
Sure.
So at some point, I think I was already talking to customers as a product manager, so it was not such a big change to my other roles. Then I started to face other challenges, and then I started to face other things, and then I need to work on other things. For example, when you're building a practice, all the things you need to set up, all the if you want, the politics that you need to deal with, also kind of spreading the word of what's research about, how should you use research, understanding what are the needs from the team, and all the things. Maybe these are things I kind of started adding on that. But I would not say it was like a really strange transition or something hard.
Yeah. Okay. That's cool. How long did it take you maybe to go from product manager to like a fully fledged UX researcher or UX or research ops? Sorry.
Well, research ops is another layer if you
Yeah,
want.
yeah, of course.
Maybe because research ops. I mean, we can get to that after that.
Sure.
But to have the first researcher title, because when I was at this collective, I was doing research, and I would be either a facilitator or a researcher depending on the situation. But then to have, I would say that the transition was confirmed when I got the first UX researcher title, so to say, because it was my defined scope.
Role. Yeah.
So yeah, that was about a year and a half.
Okay.
2 years. If you
Okay.
Want. But as I said, there's no clean transition because I was doing a lot of that. Yeah.
Yeah, you're
and
already
then research. Yeah, and then research ops. That kind of comes later somehow.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, when I realized that research ops actually is a thing, and because for me it was only okay, I need to build the practice, I need to build a team.
Yeah.
So all the things around the research that are not the research itself, for me they were things. They were like sorry for the it's a fuzzy label. They're just but then I started realizing there's this thing called research ops, and then learning and implementing things. So I've never since I started, I never had a research ops title till I decided to create my agency.
Okay.
So my approach and my connection with research ops is basically using or implementing research ops and working on research ops from the first UX researcher in the team perspective, or the second researcher in the team perspective. So that kind of thing. It's not that I worked as a research ops specialist or manager somewhere. It's something that skills that I picked up also because I needed them.
Yeah. So like you learned it out of need. No, cool. Maybe touching on that a bit more, because I'm the first and only UX researcher where I'm working now. Maybe there are some listeners as well. So what advice would you give to someone who is the first UX researcher, maybe even earlier on in their career? Because maybe obviously you're applying for roles, your first role, and maybe you're offered that role and you are the first UX researcher. So what tips and advice would you give to someone who's the first UX researcher?
Okay, so
I know it's a big question, but
yeah, but it's a really good one. Great question. First of all, it's a great question because I think this is the situation many people are facing, and many people will face in the upcoming years, so to say.
Yeah.
I mean, we are in this phase of research adoption. I mean, we can also discuss that there have been layoffs and maybe companies are investing less. But I think this is kind of, in my perspective, the way I see it, at least here in Europe. Maybe in the US is different. I'm not like fully knowledgeable of how the situation in the US, but here in Europe, what I see is that I see first researchers popping up everywhere and larger research teams shrinking. So I think this is kind of a redistribution of the resources. If you want to talk in like economic models, but I definitely see it going this way. So many people will face this. I would say the flavor of a first UX research role is slightly different than when you join a team that is a bit more established and a little bit more mature.
Yeah.
And there are many things to consider. First of all, I would say that people need to understand that they should not just dive right away into the research and understand the context a little bit more.
Yeah.
So, I mean, when you are the first researcher, you need to maybe advocate for research or champion research. Research is about how to use it, understand the needs. Okay, because ultimately our role is to help teams, de-risk things, or help, make them better decisions. So maybe understand how are you informing, or how are these decisions being informed? How are people based on what are people taking decisions, and how can you help? Start the other way around. So it's important that you, when you are the first researcher, you just don't say, okay, now I go and do the next usability testing, or do the next set of interviews or whatever. This is not just that, and you need to kind of understand that there also requires a lot of operational stuff. So how do you set up the practice? What are the things you need to put in place? And in many cases, what these researchers might face is that maybe you have a model where you have other people doing some research. So maybe you have designers doing some research, or product managers. So what I would normally advise is, okay, you don't need to now centralize everything in you, but actually is, okay, how can you then chip in and kind of collaborate or help this structure perform better with your research knowledge? So instead of being the oracle that knows everything and it's like, okay, I am the one who's meant to talk to customers and you peasants, you're not, this kind of approach, which I'm very against.
No.
I would go more, okay, how can you actually create a better learning environment using your research knowledge?
Yeah. No, that's I like that take as well, kind of. Also making sure that research is also accessible for all within the team. That's something that I've wanted to do where I am now at Skyfi, is make sure that it's accessible. That also now, like, I'm on a research study and allowing like people from various teams also to sit in on interviews or go through recordings or whatever as a team. Because that way, like you say, we're not the oracle and everything has to go through the UX researcher. That also they can see kind of where you're getting your data from, where you're getting your feedback from, and also seeing the process. And that's one way of also, for me, like you said before, like championing UX research, because that way it's not this thing that's hidden away and then just throws out outputs every so often, like, oh yeah, I found this, go away and like do this based on these recommendations, but allowing them to see the whole UX process and research process. And then, no, absolutely, I agree. And in terms of that as well, how do you see the UX research field going kind of from now? You touched on it before about you're seeing a lot more in Europe, especially like sole UX researchers working in agencies and teams, etc. Do you see that trend continuing, or do you feel that there's going to be a change again in the near future?
I think there are many things happening in the research world right now. And I think that us, as a group of people, I don't want to say as an industry, but as a group of people, we are also reconsidering how our role should be. And there are many voices pointing, or many people pointing in different directions. So, and it will also depend. I think it's good that we have different paths. I think that as researchers, if you want, I don't want to say industry, but as a group of people, we are reconsidering a bit, especially during the last year, what's our role, what's our value, how do we position ourselves within or inside a company. From my perspective, at least here, I do see that trend of first researchers popping up, and I see like large teams shrinking and smaller teams popping up, and this might produce that, or might cause that researchers need to have a different approach to the role. And maybe this is connected to my previous point. Instead of just acting as the oracle, maybe as an enabler. Okay, that maybe we have I don't want to talk about, I will use the word democratization, but in some cases, this is just, it's beyond that. It's not that you have a research team and then you democratize, and this happened in many companies that were large and you have 10 researchers and then democratize to more people. But in many companies where you have no research, research is done, if it's done, which is, let's start with, if they do any research, that's a good start, but maybe it's done by other stakeholders.
Yeah.
So if you are the first researcher or you have a team of two, then you need to work more as an enabler and kind of step up the game and set a standard, and kind of maybe help them increase the quality of what they do, and also help them, take the. I really like, I don't know if you know him, Dr. Ari Zelmanov.
Yeah.
he
following too.
great stuff, and he always uses this analogies, and we need to be the ones taking the evidence to court, and then saying, okay, questioning, is this the right way to do this? Is this is this more valuable to this? And then what's important to the business and the company? So I would not worry about this, this trend of other people doing some sort of research. Data collection can be done by others in cases where you don't have enough human resources. So our role needs to change. So how can we become this maybe enabler, this glue of everything?
Yeah, that's a nice way to put it. Yeah, and in terms of that as well. So how do you, I don't know, maybe in your own role or your own experiences, how do you do that enabling? Is it by, I don't know, including various stakeholders in kind of the decision-making process with maybe how you go about research? Is it going along with them and including them in a specific research task? How would you suggest going about that?
Well, that would depend a little bit on the context and the organization, but there are many things. There are many places where you can actually chip in. So on one side, you do have this. Okay, how are you doing this? First of all, what's the reason why you're doing this? What are you trying to learn? Kind of helping them shift a little bit the mindset. Sometimes, especially people who are not specialized in research or that don't have enough research experience, they just think of the method, the tool, instead of the actual use. So this is where you can chip in. Also understand, okay, what are the cadence? We're doing stuff. What is the reasoning? You can also help connect all these things. Insights from different teams, because you have insight producing teams. Maybe you have teams, with insight producing team, I mean teams that have a customer touch point. So it could be, customer support, customer experience, sales, you name it. So how can you connect insights from all these teams? Then if there are teams conducting research, how can you actually, get, for example, get them users, the right users, and kind of seeing where you can create value. Because if you just focus, of course you also meant to conduct some research. Of course, you have different boxes you should put on that. Now you should be, because what I'm describing now to many people, it might sound, okay, that sounds like a research ops position. Indeed, it is a pretty research ops heavy position, because you, as a sole researcher, unless you just want to create very little value, which is doing just hands-on work, you need to change the way you approach the role. So yeah, but you're also meant to conduct some research. So I would say, 30, 70, 75, 25, something like that. But kind of trying to, what I mean with enabler is helping or pushing the company. Well, pushing maybe is a bit too aggressive. So let's use
gently
taking the company or helping the company make better decisions and learn more about the user, the problem space, and the business. So how can you actually step up the game in terms of how can you help everybody learn more and make more informed decisions in the long run? That's basically.
No, I like that. It's a nice way to do it. So yeah, I've never really looked at it like that as well. I suppose being the sole UX researcher, you do have that responsibility as well to help the whole company kind of come on board with research, and maybe not come on board, but help them to see the value, and also to allow them in their various roles. Because like you said, there are various teams that have customer touch points or user touch points and get feedback, but maybe they don't know how to interpret that feedback, or they don't know where it should go, and it just kind of lives or sits somewhere unused. Whereas that could obviously be really valuable to a UX researcher to help find obviously trends, patterns, user kind of sentiments and things like that. So that's really good. It's some nice for us to consider. So maybe we can end it here. I've really enjoyed having you on, Julian. I don't want to take up all of your day doing this recording, but it's really nice to have you on and also get a different kind of perspective as well, because so far we've had UX designers on, we've had UX researchers. You are a UX researcher. It's nice to also have that kind of ops viewpoint as well. I've never kind of really spoken to a research ops professional, so it's nice to get you on and kind of get that as well. And I've learned a lot, and I hope also our listeners have learned a lot too.
Thanks for having me. It was great talking to you.
No problem. Thank you.